appealing, but if they can't do anything. So we have 4 people, and I guess December 7th is the key to see if everybody can make that meeting, right, Zach?
Yeah, and just to let everyone know, I started the live stream for the meeting. But yeah, December 7th, there are a couple of projects coming up, and I'll go over this when we discuss 289 Hudson Avenue, but we're unfortunately having some difficulties with being able to pay the Times Union. So I'm not sure if we're going to be able to get in the legal notice for the hearing on the 23rd. So we might need to move some items, or just, you know, the board may not be able to act until December 7th as well. And, you know, if everyone's available, and depending on the caseload, we might be able to cancel the December 15th meeting as well. So hopefully that would reduce an extra meeting for you all as well.
Having trouble paying the Times Union.
Yeah, unfortunately, we just have we have a limited number of staff people, so you know, we don't have a dedicated staff person doing billing with the Times Union, and we have, like, with the Times Union, we have a certain quota or threshold for the number of public notices we can do. So since we've been having a lot more meetings, we've been exceeding that quota. So we've had to do transfer of funds for that as a result. They're supposed to be getting, you know, back payments received next week. But unfortunately, since they have not received that money, they are not allowing us to do any legal notices until they've received that payment. So it's unfortunately creating an extra complication. But I can go over that in more depth once we get to the discussion of the December 7th meeting.
Okay. Well, we have all the board members available in our council. Should we start?
We're all set.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. This is a planning board workshop for the city of Albany. The purpose of the workshop is for the planning board members to review new projects or review old ones, ones we've seen already that have perhaps moved along or have changed. The purpose of the meeting basically is that, and it is a discussion between the professional staff of the planning department and the board members. There is no comment by the public or by applicants unless there is a need for some clarification, and perhaps an applicant is available to answer that. The agenda is relatively short tonight. We have a couple of topics also to discuss after we look at the projects that are on the agenda. So the first item on the agenda that we have is 289 Hudson Avenue, which is a new project that we haven't seen yet. And if you can explain what is the request, we'll go with that one first.
Great, thanks, Al. So this is a proposed conversion of an existing office space into 2 dwelling units. This project is located within Center Square in an RT zoning district. As you can see on the left, that's a image from the summer showing the corner of Dove and Hudson where the property is located at. And just as a reminder, there is a provision within our code that allows structures that were originally designed and constructed for non-residential use to be converted to any use within the residential or civic and institutional categories upon the issuance of a conditional use permit. We saw this come up with 163 Clinton Avenue, which was the conversion of the former school into multifamily dwelling. This is coming into play here because the applicant would be providing or creating 2 new dwelling units within a building that already has other residential dwelling units in it that would exceed the maximum number normally permitted within a townhouse, but this is permitted since, as you can see on the image on the right, this was originally constructed for commercial use in the 20th century. This is why it's coming before the board for conditional use permit. As we continue on, this is the existing floor plan. There'll be some internal demolition, which is shown with the hashed lines. The applicant's looking to keep the existing door and window openings since this is located in a historic district, and they're not proposing any modifications to those openings. That would require a certificate of appropriateness if they did end up doing that. This is the floor plan showing the 2 proposed units. There will also be tenant amenities such as storage, and there'll be an area for interior trash storage as well to prevent any issues related to storing trash within Center Square, since we've heard that as an issue within many townhouse districts throughout the city.
Pretty large apartments.
Yeah, the applicant.
Good size.
Yeah, the applicant, when they were initially submitting this, they had thought about submitting for 3 dwelling units, but some of the design changed just when they realized they had to maintain the existing window and door openings. So that's why they decided to go with the 2-unit configuration.
What's going on over on the left there? There are 2 spaces labeled 42 square feet and 41 square feet, because they both have big, beautiful windows, yet they're very small, looks like utility rooms.
I think they are utility rooms, if I remember correctly. We can follow up with the applicant just to confirm that. But if I remember correctly, that's what they're.
Where is that that you're looking at? The 41 square feet.
Yeah, could you point it out there? Oh, good, thank you, sir.
Oh, thank you. Okay. Storage units?
Yeah, must be.
They got a pretty good sized storage unit in the apartment too, on the upper part of the drawing.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
And the applicant is on. They're just the applicant said they're just storage areas, so it might just be for building maintenance storage, since there are other units as well.
Okay.
This is a type 2 action under seeker, since this is just a reuse of an existing structure. This was referred to the Albany County Planning Board for their November 18th meeting. No parking is required, since the proposed change of use actually decreases the required number of parking spaces. And as I mentioned before, there's no proposed change in the door or window openings. Any other questions on this application?
Yeah, why does the county have to see this one? Is it too close to the Empire State Plaza? Is that the idea? Or is it Madison Avenue because it's part of US Route 20?
I think it's both. I can pull up the referral form, but I believe it was Madison Avenue. Give me just 1 second. I'll pull that up. State or county property. I think it's actually Hudson and Jay Park. That actually is owned by the state, so that is technically state property within 500 feet. So that was why it was referred over.
The park is owned by the state. Okay.
Which floor of the building are these units on? Will this mean that the building is 100% residential after it's converted, or will it just be 50% residential?
Yeah, so these will be on the ground floor.
Okay.
So that would mean the entire building is residential at this
So
point.
the upstairs is already residential. Okay.
Correct. Any other questions?
Any other questions on that one? Okay. The next one is 329 North Pearl Street. This is a proposal for the development of a parking lot that is not adjacent to the a particular project. We've seen this before, and this has citywide implications, but because this specifically involves Capitol Repertory Theater, and I'm on the board of Capitol Rep, I will have to recuse myself. And you can call me when you're done.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Al. So just for a little bit of context, this project in some capacity came before the board when they were considering a zoning text amendment to allow surface parking lots as a principal use through a conditional use permit. And this was one of two projects that were identified where this happened. The other was Legal Aid Society, where they're looking to construct a surface parking lot as well within a mixed-use community urban zoning district. So that's where the initial kind of review or appearance was for this project. Again, this is located in a mixed-use community urban district. It's adjacent to a mixed-use form-based warehouse district, and it's located across from the housing authority. So just as a reminder, with the text amendment, this created use-specific review standards for those parking lots. The planning board can only approve a conditional use permit if the proposed parking lot is responding to a demonstrated need, and this can be shown through recent investment in nearby properties or increased demand at existing properties. The closest lot line for the parking lot can be no more than 300 feet from the lot line of the property to be served. The property has to be used on a lot that's been vacant or underutilized for at least 5 years. And then for properties with a depth of 100 feet or greater, which this property is, that they're designed in a way that it doesn't prevent the possibility of liner buildings being constructed to the greatest degree practicable. And it doesn't result in the demolition of existing structures that could have an economically viable use or reuse, as reviewed through the planning board through demolition review or through the Historic Resources Commission through a major certificate of appropriateness. So moving on, this is the proposed site plan. The applicant is looking to construct a 44 space parking lot. They are anticipating that this will be used for 15 years, because that is how long Cap Rep has a lease for the property. They are proposing landscaping and screening, which is required as part of any construction of a parking lot. It's shown on here towards the top. Along with this application, they are requesting a waiver. There is a provision within our code that says that all parking shall be accessed from rear alleys or side streets when a lot is located on a corner. Since this property has frontage both on Colony Street and North Pearl Street, based on the code, that would normally require access to the parking lot to be on Colony Street. So the applicant did provide a waiver request form, so I'll go through their responses. And feel free to stop me if you have any questions as we go through this. And if there's any questions now, I'm happy to answer them before continuing through the review standards. Okay. In response to the character of the neighborhood and how the proposed parking lot would fit within the character of the neighborhood, the applicant stated that there are currently multiple corner lots with access drives onto major roads such as North Pearl Street and Broadway. These are images of the properties that were referenced by the applicant. And the applicant also cites that there are existing curb cuts on the site from previous land uses. And given the fact that there are other lots with similar access points onto major streets, they do not believe that adding the curb cut they believe that would fit in with the context of the neighborhood. Moving into alternatives considered, they looked to the purpose of the district, which is to provide a wide range of uses, retail, residential, and commercial, to serve an area larger than a specific neighborhood. The parking lot is proposed to serve the employees and patrons of the Cap Rep Theater. The applicant had met with city departments to discuss the proposed application, with city departments preferring that the entrance be located on Colony Street, proposed that the curb cut access be on North Pearl Street because of grade issues with Colony Street and the condition of Colony Street. The applicant, as part of this, had considered a number of different configurations, and I'll go through those as well. The applicant in this first alternative considered an option where there would be ingress from Colony Street and egress out onto North Pearl Street, but they decided not to choose this option because that would limit the available street frontage that could be used for future development. So that would leave, as this is showing here, this would leave a smaller footprint for future buildings that would be separate and would not occupy the corner of the lot. So they chose not to go through with this option. And that aligns with the conditional use permit review standards as well, to try and promote future development alongside any future surface parking lot in these districts. The applicant did end up going with the second option they considered, so I'll come back to this in just a second. The third option they considered was providing a parking lot that was solely accessed on Colony Street, but this would have required a taller and more significant retaining wall, and that would also separate the parking lot from the street, which would have required additional improvements for wayfinding and landscaping to make sure that people are understanding how to get to and from the parking lot. And that could have had a negative impact on the neighborhood related to traffic as well, for potential drivers who are unsure of where to go when parking at the site. And so going back to the option that was selected, the applicant chose this because there could be larger future development on the corner of the property, where a future development could occupy more of the frontage of Colony Street as well as North Pearl Street. And the building could act as a retaining wall as well, which could help promote a more significant development and more dense development at the site. The applicant's also choosing the current location as well because this would result in less site disturbance, which was recommended with their conversations with the State Historic Preservation Office, and they're not proposing to disturb anything below grade. And the applicant's also looking to provide access from a more northern position of the site, so there's a larger distance between Colony Street and the proposed entrance to the parking lot to promote safer sight lines as well for entering and exiting. And there were also, during discussions with city departments, concerns over fire truck access as well along Colony Street. So that was also one of the reasons why the applicant chose to provide access from North Pearl Street.
The Colony Street at this point is a dead end, right? It doesn't actually hook up because of a grade difference at Broadway. Is that right, or am I mistaking location there?
It does hook up. It's just
It
a
does,
very narrow connection.
Okay.
So it'd just be a really difficult turning radius for like a fire truck to make. When the applicant looked at substantiality, they stated that there are similar conditions in the neighborhood, as well as pointing out that there are existing curb cuts at the site, which they're looking to remove and replace to match existing curbing. So they believe that that is not a significant deviation from the prevailing regulation. Impact on the environment. They did not identify any impacts on the environment. As was mentioned before, this is hopefully improving traffic impacts and access for emergency vehicles as well, so that the location of the access on North Pearl Street would prevent potential negative impacts if instead if they had proposed access from Colony Street. And finally, for self-created difficulty, the applicant was looking to identify a solution to avoid a self-created difficulty. However, this is an existing site that could allow for a compliant configuration, but the applicant is choosing not to. Again, a self-created difficulty is not dispositive when looking at a waiver. So this is a self-created difficulty, but the applicant is, taking into consideration a number of factors from city staff and traffic safety reasoning. So it does make sense for them to look into or pursue this option.
Is the entire site and the entire parcel vacant today?
Yes.
Okay. Interesting. There's a historic church somewhere near there, right? Is that a little bit farther north?
Yep, that's right across the street.
Across the street. Okay. Thank you.
And what are they saying happens, Zach, if we don't do it? What's the impact?
In terms of the waiver?
Yeah.
Yeah. So then the applicant would have to relocate their parking lot and provide access on Colony Street. As a result, as the applicant identified, they would have to construct a more significant retaining wall, which would then lead to site disturbance that would require more review and study by the State Historic Preservation Office to ensure that no resources are being disturbed or negatively impacted as a result. So again, since this is a anticipated temporary, or it's a 15-year anticipated parking lot, they're looking to view this as more temporary, even though our process looks at this as a permanent parking lot. So it would be a more significant investment for an applicant who's viewing this as more of a temporary investment on their end. Did that answer your question?
I mean, I think in its most basic terms, for us, if you do it, then this is the result. If you don't do it, then this is the result. I mean, ultimately, no matter what, they're looking to do the parking lot. One way is probably easier than another way, and less less expensive. But I think I understand. I get that. I understand. Chloe, it's not your meeting.
And if there's any additional information that you want me to get from the applicant prior to the meeting, feel free. If you want to know any more based on the reasoning or any cost estimates they've done, we can reach out to them to see if they can provide that ahead of the meeting or during the meeting presentation.
I'm kind of intrigued about their thinking of future development on the site as part of the planning for the parking lot. And I'm kind of curious as to how, how real some additional development on the site might be and how much that should fit into our decision making. I mean, it sounds like a great idea to have have another building, have another potentially mixed use or residential building on the site there in that neighborhood. That would probably be positive. So.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't seen any expressed interest for development, for like a structure on that corner of the building. The applicant, when they proposed this a couple of years ago, our department received this, and typically our department doesn't like having principal parking lots just because it does prevent future development.
Right.
So it was not specifically in mind with the idea that there would be a future structure at the site, but when thinking about developing conditional use permit review standards for this type of situation, just making sure that it's taking into consideration a lot of factors going forward, just to making sure it's not going to prevent development, in other instances where this comes up in a mixed use community urban district.
Right. Okay. Any idea of how the lot got such an odd shape? I'm kind of intrigued by those little boxes that are cut out. Always a fascinating history behind things and all that.
Yeah, I'm not sure. When looking back at the old Sanborn maps, there were some lower density. There were some townhouse style dwellings on the corner of Colony and North Pearl Street, but the center of the lot seemed to be fairly vacant. I'm not sure if there was, previous access, for the railroad.
Yeah, maybe.
If that's immediately adjacent,
yeah.
Or if there were any uses that were supporting, any use that utilize the railroad for delivery. So that would be my guess. It is always interesting to figure out what. Why a lot is shaped the way it is.
Right, exactly. Okay, thanks. Okay, is that is that the last slide?
I believe so. Yep.
Did we see it already? Okay.
So is there any other questions or any information that I should reach out to the applicant to get prior to their concept review meeting on the 23rd?
I'm fine. I'm done.
Okay. I'm just going to give Al a quick call, and I'll be back in just a sec.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay. So that's the last item in terms of projects. But I believe now Zach wanted to talk about our availability for December meetings, because there are a couple of projects that have certain deadlines, I believe. And then also to talk about meeting schedule for 2022. Zach?
Yeah, so I'll quickly start. We're anticipating that the proposed project at Huck Finn's will be ready for the planning board to act by December 7th. So that was originally scheduled as a workshop, but we would be potentially looking to have that as a hearing as well as a workshop. And depending on the amount of business going forward, we might just have that serve as the only meeting in December so that we can cancel the December 15th meeting. Because I don't believe we received any new cases at that point, or we haven't received any new cases. So it would just be existing projects or cases that would be moving forward at that point. So I was just wanting to check with all of your availabilities to see if you're able to make the December 7th workshop / potential hearing.
So the workshop would instead be a planning board meeting?
It would be both. It would kind of be a combined meeting and workshop.
So we wouldn't have anything on the 15th?
Likely not.
Okay.
I think that's kind of the goal. We still might need to have something if there's a project that comes up, but I think the goal is to, remove the need for an additional meeting within December.
Board members, would you be available on the 7th? You all checking your calendars?
Yes, and I will be available.
I'm available on the 7th.
Okay.
I'm available
thank
as
you.
well.
Vanessa?
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm available.
Oh, great. Okay. So we will schedule that for the 7th. And actually, it was the 14th, not the 15th. I kept saying the 15th. It was what would have been the actual workshop meeting. Okay.
My calendar actually shows the workshop on the 14th, the one I got from the city. So that's interesting.
Yeah.
Can you send out a new invite? Back, thank you.
Yeah, I'll send a new
Zach?
invite out, and I'll make sure to send out the notice with the agenda as well to you all.
Zach, does that, would that then preclude also the December 28th, which was when the planning board meeting was originally scheduled? Or would we keep that one? Or was it too
I don't
early
think
to
there was a December. I don't think there was a December 28th meeting, if I remember correctly. Sorry, I'll just pull up the schedule just so I'm not.
Well, I had it on my calendar here, but it's between the Christmas weekend and the New Year's weekend.
I had this. I had the same thing out.
Yeah.
It might have been that the Microsoft Outlook invite that I sent out was just for every 2 weeks, and it might have just continued that even though it's not scheduled. Here, I'm just going to switch to our. Yes, I think we had scheduled the workshop for the 7th and the meeting for the 14th. So we would be potentially removing the meeting on the 14th. There wasn't any scheduled meeting for the 28th, so that wouldn't. I can go into the meeting series and remove that.
Okay.
So that's not creating any confusion.
Okay.
So I'm going to go back to PowerPoint. So just for a little context for you all, trying to incorporate some of your comments and feedback on certain applications. I think there's been a number of times where you all have would have liked to act on certain simpler applications what's initially viewed at a workshop, where you could just transfer that at the same meeting from a workshop to a hearing and act on it. And I think, you know, on our end, looking to find ways to make life easier for applicants as well as for ourselves, and for the board as well going forward. So we're looking to create a new schedule where there wouldn't be set times for meetings, workshops, and hearings, but there would just be set dates where the planning board would meet, and then depending on the number of cases received, it would be scheduled as a workshop, meeting, and or hearing. And that would also allow the opportunity to schedule an application to have a workshop and a hearing or meeting the same night, to dispense of simpler applications, so the board has more time to focus on more significant or more detailed applications as well. So this format would have the board meet for the most part every 3 weeks instead of every 2 weeks. So that would reduce the number of overall meetings from about 24 to 17 meetings. But this would also reduce the delays that I think a number of applicants have seen in waiting to go through the process of having a workshop and then having a meeting as well. So while there would be fewer meetings, I think the idea is that these would hopefully be more productive overall. So this proposed format would still keep meetings on Tuesdays. There are some times where, based on a holiday or you know, in the case of June with the primary, there will be a shorter gap between, but for the most part, trying to keep 3 weeks in between. So just wanting to make sure that this proposed format works for the board, and if there's anything else you'd like me to think about, or if there's any of these dates that don't work, so that we know ahead of time so we can modify that, since we need to be submitting the schedule to the city clerk within the next week or so.
Now, how would that work? Because we have to notice the type of meeting as well as the date of the meeting, correct?
Yeah, so with the current city clerk schedule, and I'll actually pull that up just so that you all and people attending can kind of understand what I'm speaking to. Give me just 1 second and I can transition to that. So previously, before, this is what we would input our dates into, and previously there would be identified workshop dates and meeting or hearing dates in the schedule. So essentially, going forward, this would just be, you know, our department identifying what is in a position to go to a workshop, meeting, and or hearing on each of these specific meeting dates. So it would not be scheduling ahead of time what is a workshop, what is a meeting, but just doing that on a case-by-case basis, you know, based on the number of cases we receive and the completeness of the case.
Right, and
there have been a number of instances. Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
And when would we decide which one it would be? You know, whether it be a hearing or a meeting or a workshop, or all three, or some combination.
Yeah, I think it could be some combination of, you know, the board deciding whether they're comfortable with that, or it might just be more cautiously noticing everything that is required to be a hearing as a hearing, so that the board has the flexibility to move into that, you know, at their, you know, at their pleasure, essentially.
Okay.
You know, I think some of this will be a little bit of a learning curve of just, you know, figuring out how we want to set that up going forward. So it might just be me talking about applications we've received at a more, nascent or beginning stage, so that you're all aware of what's going on. Or it might be in some instances if you trust, where the application is with our department, that we can make that decision. But again, I want to make sure that this is putting you all in the driver's seat and making sure that you feel comfortable going forward with that format. So, we could use the December 7th meeting and workshop to kind of test that out, or go over any questions about current applications. But if there's any thoughts on that, it'd be great to hear that as well.
Zach, maybe you explained this and I missed it, but in the previous 12-month calendar that you had, what were the significance? Yes, thank you. What are the significance of the red circles? I'm assuming the golden colored or yellow circles are the proposed meetings that we would have during the year, but the red ones?
Yeah, so the pink ones on here, the magenta color, those identify public holidays. So, in January, that the 17th is Martin Luther King Jr. Day.
Okay. I thought they were holidays, but they got thrown by June 20th and October, June 20th. I don't know what June 20th was. So,
It's the newest holiday,
Yeah,
Juneteenth.
Yes.
Is that when
Thank
Juneteenth is now? Okay.
It could be when it's observed. I believe it's actually either the 18th and 19th.
Yeah,
that's what I thought it would be on the actual weekend, but okay, they're making it a part of a three-day weekend. Okay. All right.
So overall,
does
does this format work for the board going forward?
It works for me. It sounds like a good idea, and as you point out, it's more responsive, but more responsive to people, applicants, but at the same time probably would make our work more efficient. Just one minor thing for me is that I usually go on vacation on the week of the 20th, the last full weekend in August, so I might not be able to make the 23rd of August, but other than that, it's all fine.
We lost your voice there after you said vacation. It sounded like you're already gone.
I go on vacation the 22nd of or the last full week of August usually.
Yeah.
So I might not be able to make the 23rd. But other than that, it's fine. And I haven't confirmed that yet, so I might be able to be there then too.
Yeah. Well, some of you will always have vacation periods in there someplace.
Exactly.
So as long as we can, keep a quorum.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Good.
Any other
And
comments about the schedule? Okay. Zach, you were going to say something else?
And Martin, we can reschedule that too. It was moved from the 30th just because that conflicts with Ganesh Chaturthi, which is a Hindu holiday. So, but we can look to other dates as well. Maybe potentially September 6th. But we can kind of play that by ear too, because this can be modified at any point as well. So this is just kind of the baseline and then adapting from there.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Like I said, yeah. Let's not change it yet because I haven't confirmed that, but I appreciate the consideration. Let you know.
Any birthday conflicts as well, so that we're hopefully avoiding people like Chris having to attend on your birthday.
Well, I don't think that's a problem. I mean, the penalty would be they'd have to give us some cake.
Hey man, I went to work and participated in a full board meeting today. It's whatever.
Yeah, you missed my birthday, so we're good.
Yeah, me too. Sad.
All right. Okay. Any other business that we need to speak about? All right,
Sure.
I'll accept the motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Okay, and happy birthday again.
Oh, yes,
Chris.
happy birthday.
Happy birthday,
Happy birthday.
Chris.
Happy
All right, y'all.
birthday.
Y'all take
Happy
care.
birthday.
This is over
Take
fast.
care.
That's good.
Bye.